And once again, it's Monday night. We have, 352 Monday nights a year?
On planet Jupiter, maybe?
No.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, 52. Don't ask me why I threw the 3 in there. Anyway, VoiceOver Body Shop's coming up. Our guest tonight is Amanda Rose Smith, who is an engineer, an audio engineer. She specializes in audiobooks, and she directs, and she produces, and she composes music. Whoa. Can't wait to hear about that one. All right, and we've got something with punch and roll tonight.
Well, we're going to talk about punch and roll methods for doing audiobooks.
If you dare.
Yeah.
So, ask your questions. Join us in the chat room. VOBS is coming right up.
2 men, twin sons from different mothers, with a passion for voiceover recording technology and the desire to make recording easy for voice actors everywhere. Together, in one place, George Whittam, the home studio engineer to the stars, a Virginia Tech grad with an unmatched knowledge of all the latest gear and technology in voiceover today. Dan Leonard, the home studio master, a voice actor with over 30 years experience in broadcasting and recording, and a no-holds-barred, myth-busting attitude for teaching you how easy it is. Together, to bring you all the latest technology, today's voiceover superstars, and leading the discussion on how to make the most of your voiceover business. This is VoiceOver Body Shop.
VoiceOver Body Shop is brought to you by VoiceOverEssentials.com, home of Harlan Hogan signature products. Source Elements, makers of Source Connect, Source Connect Pro, and Source Connect Now. VO2GoGo.com, everything you need to become a successful voice artist. VoiceOver Extra, your daily resource for VO success. The VO Dojo, take your voiceover career all the way. J. Michael Collins Demos, when quality matters. And by VoiceActorWebsites.com, where your voice actor website shouldn't be a pain in the butt.
And now, live from their super secret multimedia studio in Sherman Oaks, California, here are George Whittam and Dan Leonard.
Good evening. I'm Dan Leonard.
And I'm George Whittam.
And this is VoiceOver
Body Shop.
Or VOBS.
Yes.
Welcome, everybody. Good to see you.
You too, my friend.
Yeah, we get together once a week and talk every now and again. But tonight, on our very show, we're going to have a wonderful time because we've got somebody who will demystify audiobook audio.
Audiobook audio.
Which everybody is intimidated by. Amanda Rose Smith is going to join us a little later, and we're going to talk about all that garbage and the specs and the stuff that the producers.
What does it all mean? What matters?
Why should it matter? Right. And does it matter? Also, we're going to talk about punch and roll tonight, and it's unless you're using Pro Tools, which only the experts should be using, since they're trained to do it. It can be kind of troublesome, but we think we may have found a couple of easy answers for you. Yeah. Sort of. Yeah. All righty. And let's see. Oh, and tonight, I have to do some preparation because this is something everybody over 50 should do, and that's have a colonoscopy. So I'm doing that tomorrow morning.
Yay!
And so sometime later in the show, I will begin preparation for that. So we'll start after the show is over. So
the colonoscopy, you mean, is going to be after the show?
Yes, fortunately. You don't want it during the show. It would be like going through the Lincoln Tunnel.
Bad timing, man.
Yeah, I know.
Seriously
but
bad. It's
like I got to get it done. So anyway, so with all that out of the way, it's now time for.
And now, the VoiceOver Extra VOBS News. The latest and most comprehensive voiceover industry news. Brought to you live.
Alrighty, the VOBS News Holiday Magic Project. Is there anything more rewarding than being the reason a child smiles or laughs or sings? Well, now picture that child in a hospital during the holidays. In fact, imagine hundreds, even thousands of them smiling, laughing, and singing because of you. And if you can do that, you can get a sense of the joy that voice actors receive every year working and performing with voice actor producer Jeff Gelder on the Holiday Magic, a gift for children of all ages CD project he created back in 2003.
Wow, way back.
Yeah.
Gelder and his volunteer elves produce a new program of holiday stories and songs every year, which is distributed free to children's hospitals, featuring an original holiday tale with interwoven songs and stories performed by talents in the voiceover and music communities. This year's goal is to reach 12,000 children in more than 71 hospitals worldwide. And new for 2017, children will receive gift cards with a special code to download the musical program rather than a CD.
Now, Gelder says, we listened to the kids and basically heard that CDs are obsolete. Duh. They'll also be treated to a Children's Holiday Magic Project 12-page activity and coloring book. By now, the recordings have been produced and the hospitals are being lined up for deliveries, including a number of in-person visits to hospitals and cities, including San Diego, Los Angeles, and Houston, Texas. But you can still get it in. You can still get in on the delivering the smiles by donating to the project here. It's holidaymagiccd.com/donate.
And you can also support the project by attending the project's annual gala fundraiser, an enjoyable evening on Saturday, December 10th in the San Diego area, featuring a 3-course dinner, entertainment, photos with Santa, and holiday shopping at the silent auction. And Gelder seeks even more children to brighten. He says, if you know a hospital and children that isn't already receiving our gift of songs and stories, please let us know. We'll send as many CD gift packs as we have requests for and funds to fulfill. So send your request to info@holidaymagiccd.com.
By the way, who are these generous elves who contribute so much of their time and talent to the Holiday Magic Project? See the cast for this year's program and all the volunteers in a new article now at voiceoverextra.com. And while you're there, check out thousands of additional how-to and industry articles and resources. It's all free at voiceoverextra.com, your daily resource for voiceover success.
Very nice. It's great that they keep that tradition going.
It is. I've been doing it for what is it, 15 years now, 14, 15 years. So
it's a heck of a lot of work.
Yeah, and it's great that they do that for kids, and it's great that voice artists lend their talent to it. Always fun to do those types of things.
Well, I've got a little bit of geeky stuff to talk about, some new technology.
Take your eyes, roll them to the back of your head.
Legitimately new technology. This is pretty cool. It's a product that I stumbled on called Mic Me.
Mic Me?
Mic Me. That's spelled Mikme, and it can be found at micme.com. What is this thing? Well, it's a microphone for, really for anything. It works on laptops, Mac, PC, and it works on an iPhone.
Okay.
But what's interesting is how it works with the iPhone. We're really accustomed to the Apogee mic.
Right.
And all these other mics that plug into the iPhone. But as we talked about the other week, was it last week or the week before? I think it was last week.
Last week we talked about the Mic 96K.
Right. Anything that plugs into an iPad or an iPhone is dependent on that device's iPhone, iOS, and the mic and everything all talking to each other and being hooked up to each other.
Right.
Well, wouldn't it be cool if the mic, like the Apogee mic, had a built-in high-resolution audio recorder?
It would
like
be nice.
Literally in the microphone.
I don't know where they'd fit it in there, but yeah.
Well, that's what this thing does. It's a 1-inch diaphragm microphone. I'll read a few specs here. It's the world's first audio recorder with a 1-inch gold-plated phantom-powered condenser capsule. Ooh. So it's a full-blown professional quality 1-inch diaphragm capsule recorder. It's all built into the mic. It can record with sample rates 44.1, 48, or for people that need it, 96 kilohertz sample rate.
They have really big hard drives.
That's right, at 24 bits. And it has a built-in 16 gigabyte storage in the mic. So you can, even at that really high resolution, you can record for several hours, no problem. It records the audio locally, but there's all these different options where the app can either the mic can stream the audio to the tablet or the iPhone wirelessly over Bluetooth.
I was going to say over Bluetooth.
Yeah, which normally Bluetooth wouldn't be considered pro quality, but they have their own protocol which allows this to work.
Excellent.
But even better is it has the ability to record internally and sync that audio up with what you've done on your iPad. Now, will that have a lot of bearing for voice actors right now? Maybe not right away, because Twisted Wave would have to have a way to receive audio from MicMe directly. It doesn't yet. But if you use MicMe's own built-in app or the recording app or their video app, you can shoot video with MicMe sitting right in front of you, right where you want it. And then later it syncs the audio from the mic itself back into the video and gives you the full quality, full resolution audio right off the microphone. It does it completely seamlessly and automatically. So this thing is pretty darn cool. I just heard about it. The guy that developed it was from AKG. Mm-hmm. They know a thing or two about mics. So I'm thinking it's going to sound pretty good. If you go to their website, micme.com, you'll find video of the product demonstrating it, as well as some performances recorded with the mic. So you'll know how good the microphone actually can sound. It is pretty impressive. So who knows? Maybe I'll be able to get my hands on one. We can get it in here to demonstrate.
Absolutely. I want all you manufacturers out there, send us stuff. We'll review it.
That's right. We got a few fans that would love to see this stuff being used in the real world. We'll do it right here on the show.
Because this is the real world.
The real world.
Anyway.
Everything you see is real, folks.
That's right. Especially these fine palm trees here. All righty. Well, we'll be back in just a minute, and we're going to talk about punch and roll. We've got an odd sort of tech question, but we'll cover that in a minute. Coming up right here on VoiceOver Body Shop, so stay right where you are.
As a voice talent, you have to have a website. But what a hassle getting someone to do it for you. And when they finally do, they break or don't look right on mobile devices. They're not built for marketing and SEO. They're expensive. You have limited or no control. And it takes forever to get one built and go live. So what's the best way to get you online in no time? Go to voiceactorwebsites.com. Like our name implies, voiceactorwebsites.com just does websites for voice actors. We believe in creating fast, mobile-friendly, responsive, highly functional designs that are easy to read and easy to use. You have full control. No need to hire someone every time you want to make a change. And our upfront pricing means you know exactly what your costs are ahead of time. You can get your VoiceOver website going for as little as $700. So if you want your voice actor website without the hassle of complexity and dealing with too many options, go to voiceactorwebsites.com, where your VO website shouldn't be a pain in the you-know-what.
VO2GoGo.com, everything you need to be a successful voiceover artist. Now, VO2GoGo.com's voiceover curriculum is a 5-time winner of Backstage Magazine's Reader's Choice Award for Best VO Classes and Best VO Teacher, David H. Lawrence XVII. It's 36 classes online or in person across a year-long course featuring not just classes in the art of VO, but also in the commerce and science of running your VO business. And each month's class day includes a workout class for all participants. Unlock the entire curriculum at once, over 45 hours of training, videos, audio samples, and live workouts where you work on mic. Get more details and sign up for the pro membership and save money at vo2gogo.com/ thank you, VOBS. That's vo2gogo.com / VOBS. vo2gogo.com. Everything you need to be a successful voiceover artist.
Yep, this is VOBS, proving anybody can have a show these days.
VoiceOver Body Shop. Learn the latest in voiceover technology. Learn how to get rid of that. VoiceOver Body Shop. 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on VOBS.us.
And we are back here on VoiceOver Body Shop. Now, for those of you who are new to our show, which is probably 2 or 3 of you, we love our audience. You guys are great. As you know, George and I are professional home voiceover studio technicians. We know how to set them up. We know how to tune them. We know all sorts of stuff.
We tweak your knobs.
We come into your house, pull out all the wires,
whatever you need,
all that kind of stuff, and make it sound good. And if you need help with those things, we're both available. You know, we're competitors, but we're not really competitors. If one's not available, the other one's available. So if you want to get a hold of George, you go to
GeorgeTheTech.com, and you can find everything I do on the web right there in one place.
Right. And you can go to my website, which is homevoiceoverstudio.com, and or write to me at dan@danleonard.com. And you can also send in a sample of your audio using my specimen collection cup.
That's right.
And I got 3 or 4 of those today. And one of them was like, she's recording on her laptop.
Oh, don't you love those?
It's like she didn't change the interface.
Nobody likes those.
I know. But it's like, and it sounds
especially the person doing it.
That's right.
They are always heartbroken when they find out that's what it was.
You know, sometimes people don't realize that if you're listening back on speakers and you're in a room that's not acoustically treated, you're going to get a totally.
You can't tell.
You're not going to be able to tell if you've
tell.
got a bad echo in there.
Yeah,
But
that's
anyway, so punch and roll. Now, this is now in Pro Tools. I've always had a problem with this because I don't personally like Pro Tools.
Right.
If I was a full-blown recording engineer, somebody who sits in a studio with a 42-track board in front of me all the time,
Right.
I'd say, yeah, absolutely. But for novices or people really just getting into audiobooks or just really getting into digital recording, punch and roll in Pro Tools has got to be somewhat troublesome. So our friends at Adobe Audition apparently had something that we thought would work.
Well, yeah, they have this thing it's a plug-in architecture.
Oh.
And if you want to show DAW view,
DAW View 2017.
if you want to show DAW view and show a window in Adobe Audition, we'll show you what this window we're talking about looks like. There's a window in Adobe Audition where you can load in extensions, and that allows other third-party guys like developers and a particular guy named Travis Baldry to create an Adobe Audition punch and roll function. And I heard about this through an email from Alan Sewell, actually. And he said, you might already be aware of this. I wasn't. But someone has written an extension to add it to Audition, and until Adobe builds the functionality itself. And that's what this thing does. You can see a demo and a link to the free download below. We'll have a note in the show notes for this YouTube video of Travis demonstrating this system. We were going to demonstrate it on tonight's show, actually. We had it. We went through the process of downloading the extension, trying to get it to install. Lo and behold, Adobe Audition threw us some sort of an XML error message, and that's pretty much where we got tonight with that. We could not get it to install. But if you watch the YouTube video, it's a pretty impressive demo.
Yeah, and it was pretty simple.
Well, so we found a backup.
Right. But it does work in Adobe Audition if you go through all the hoops that they send you through.
Yeah, you have to have Creative Cloud. You have to have the Creative Cloud application. You have to be logged into the Creative Cloud application. You have the most up-to-date one. You might have to install the extension manager. And if all those things are done correctly, you might be lucky enough to get it to work. We were not tonight. So,
and if we can't do it, let's see how good you guys
you're going to have to probably call Adobe
right.
to get it to work.
Now, there is a platform that we've been telling people about, which is cool because it's absolutely free, called Ocean Audio, OCEN Audio. And it works really well as a standalone recorder. It actually has a spectrograph in it. You can't really do anything with it except see where problems are.
Right.
But you can take that and
rudimentary.
Yeah, I mean, you could always throw it into RX or
sure, plugins,
or throw it into Adobe Audition after you record. But actually, this is probably pretty good for that. Now, we talk about Twisted Wave. Twisted Wave had some weird way of doing punch and roll.
Yeah, there's been some scripts written for Twisted Wave, but it had some flaws.
Right. Okay. Do we have DAW View working there, Andrew? And there it is. There it is.
So
look at that. Okay. Ocean Audio is really cool, and if I can do this, anybody can do it. I'm not a big fan of punch and roll. But in the preferences, you have to set down here at the bottom here. You can see that there is a what you have is move cursor to record stop position, destructive recording, which is not the greatest, but at least you can get it done. And pre-roll, I put 2 seconds. So with that in mind,
let's show them what all that does.
Okay, so if I'm recording, it was the worst of times, it was the best of times. No, wait. No, it was the best of time. No, okay. So all you do is hit this, and it'll take you back to there, give you a 2-second pre-roll, and actually it was the best of times. Or maybe it wasn't the best of times. But whatever time it was, no, I didn't like the way it did that.
So you find where you made the mistake.
You can
You click once,
well, you take it back to there.
and then
click-
you hit record.
Well, actually, it was the best of times. I've decided that it actually was. So, and that's how you do punch and roll using Ocean Audio.
Now, one other feature you didn't really get to notice, maybe because your sound might be muted, but you would have normally heard the pre-roll of what you, well, the metronome, but you would also have heard the pre-roll of what is there beforehand.
Right.
So theoretically, with the right combinations of bits and pieces, you should be able to do this without having to have an actual monitor in the booth or something like that. You can just do it by sound.
Right.
But I think that's much, much more difficult than actually having the monitor there, because being able to place the endpoint with your cursor is very important.
Right. And
I'm
that's
sure
what
that
this
Amanda's watching. I know she's going to have some things to say about this later because she helps people with this kind of stuff. But the thing that's cool about Ocean Audio is the simplicity of it.
Right.
It's destructive. That means if you screw up and you can't use undo to go back 2 or 3 steps,
it's gone.
You've lost
forever.
the audio recorded over. It's gone forever. If you do punch and roll recording in other software like Pro Tools, Reaper, and the Adobe Audition plugin that we were going to demonstrate that we'll try to do another time, those are all recording in multi-track mode. And what's happening is each time you hit stop, the audio that you record over when you punch in is not lost forever. It's still there. It's just hidden behind the new track.
Right.
And it kind of gets tucked underneath. But if you don't make a perfect punch in, you can tweak that punch in point later and get it exactly where you want it.
Very cool.
You can't do that with Ocean Audio. You got to get it right the first time. So if you're really good at punch and roll, or if you've had a lot of practice with it, Ocean Audio could be a massive time saver, or it just could be a massive headache.
A massive pain in the butt.
It could be if you don't have the practice.
That's right.
The whole point of punch and roll, if we didn't really make that clear, is to save you time.
Right.
So save you time, or save the editor you're paying by the hour to edit your audio time. So if you do punch and roll well, it can save you money.
Right. And like you said, practice. If you practice it, you get it down, and then it just becomes second nature. Click, you've got the right hotkeys and all that stuff, and you just fly through it.
When you're doing punch and roll, well, you weren't doing punch and roll, you were doing the click and roll.
I'm
sort of using a clicker, right?
I use a clicker, or if I want to do the paragraph again, I go.
Or the mouth pop, whatever it is.
It works.
And it works.
You can just go back and you visually edit, and you never make a mistake that way.
Yeah.
It
works pretty
always
nicely.
perfect, unless, of course, you skip over something.
That's right.
Anyway, we had one question tonight. And remember, if you have a question for us at any time, throw it in the chat room, and our director of social media, the one and only Jack Daniel, will relay that question to us.
There he is over there.
There he is,
and
right
there's
there.
Maxine, his sidekick this evening. Hello.
Show them those pants, Maxine.
Oh, yeah, my new bell bottoms.
There they are.
Yeah. Those are awesome.
She looks like a Peter Max poster. It's fascinating.
That's what I was hoping for.
Okay, good. All right. But Tom Matchin had a question for us. He goes, after watching a few of the VOBS episodes that contain agents and managers, and we've had quite a few on. I mean, we had the Agents Alliance. We had, who was it that was on last week?
From Tag?
Tag, yeah, right. And we had Shep on. We had all sorts of people. Anyway, he says, there seems to be a clashing of viewpoints on music/FX in commercial demos. The producers say you should have it. The people that seem to do the hiring say they just want to hear voice. What's the right way?
Boy, that's a toughie. It's not really a technical question. It's a what's the trend, I think, is the question, right?
And I would think that it's probably a matter of talk to the people you're sending it to.
You got to know who who it is you're auditioning with, right?
Who's the potential client there?
Yeah,
and,
it's like with cold calling. Don't do actual cold calling. Know who it is that you're calling before you call them. Know about them. And same with auditioning. Know who it is you're auditioning for, or know who the agent is. Know what their expectations are. Because there is no right answer to this question.
There is none.
Frankly, there is none. The right answer is what the person who does the hiring is wanting to hear from you.
Right.
And if what you say is true, is that you're people you're talking to are saying they want to hear just the voice, you should probably have just the voice.
So, in other words, it's a crapshoot.
Kind of a crapshoot. This is just, I'm not a voice actor and I don't produce demos. However, if I was having a voice demo produced, I would ask the producer to make me 2 cuts, which would be super easy for them to do.
Right.
Do one, or what they call stems. So you do one stem mix, which is the whole mix, music and effects, everything. And then have them give you a stem that's just your voice, 0 production. And that way you always have one or the other, you have them at the ready.
Right.
And depending on what they want, you can give them the right thing.
Okay. So the answer to the question is
Depends.
it depends.
My favorite answer.
Absolutely.
So before we go, I wanted to mention, Dan,
Yeah.
I heard you got high.
Well, I can't really do it until January 1 here in California. But no, we're
No,
talking about High Sierra.
Yes, you upgraded to High Sierra. So how long ago did you do it?
Over the last day or so.
Okay, so it's been less than 24 hours.
Yeah, 24, 36 hours,
Okay.
yeah.
Pros and cons so far. Are there any pros? Let's start there.
I haven't seen them. I like the background picture, of the High Sierra with the lake and the flowers and all that stuff.
nice
Other than that,
wallpaper.
I have not noticed any difference in how it functions. There are little tweaks in there. I've noticed in email, it just won't open the attachments. You've got to go in there, click on the attachments, and download them that way. It's a slightly different thing. But
you were running Sierra on both
I was
on your
running
MacBook and
my
Mac Mini.
right.
So you went from Sierra to High Sierra.
Right. And the other thing is it started to turn into molasses when Google Drive Sync was on.
Oh, the Google Drive. I haven't used that sync thing in a while. I've just gone all Dropbox. But,
Yeah,
so the Google Drive Sync with High Sierra crawls. Were you saying it makes the whole computer crawl?
It makes everything crawl.
Oh, it's not just the speed of the sync.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, I was on Zoom this morning and
Yeah.
it was like glitching out and a bunch of other things.
Okay.
Once I disabled Google Sync, everything worked fine.
Let me just see. What version of High Sierra are we on right now?
Now it's 10.13.1.
0.1. So this is the first debug version, the 0.1 version. So
Little bugs still
maybe
crawling around in there.
0.2, 0.3, you might want to wait for. Right. But I'm glad everything's working. All your hardware's working.
Yeah.
All your devices are working.
Yeah.
It's just, it was slower at first.
Right.
Okay.
So,
All
anyway.
right, there you go. Your
All
mileage may vary.
Right. Well, if you haven't geeked out enough,
do it.
Don't. If you haven't geeked out enough, we've got another audio engineer coming on. Amanda Rose Smith will be joining us, and we'll talk about Audiobook audio and the cool stuff that she does right after these important messages.
Are you confused about how to set up and maintain a professional quality voiceover studio? No wonder. The information out there is mostly mythology. This is the best microphone to use. You have to have a preamp. You need a soundproof booth. This software is the best. Your audio must be broadcast quality. Consult with someone who knows the truth. Someone who's been there, in the trenches, doing voiceover for over 30 years. Someone with unparalleled experience with voiceover studios, who's worked with hundreds of voice actors and designed hundreds of personal studios. He knows how to teach and cares about your success. In one of the harshest environments known to voiceover, your home. Dan Leonard, the Home Studio Master. Separate myth from fact and get a handle on your personal voiceover studio. Contact the Home Studio Master at homevoiceoverstudio.com. Drop off a specimen of your dry audio for a free analysis.
Hey everybody, let's talk about Source Elements, the creators of Source Connect, the software that connects you to the best studios in the world and some of the best networks in the world, like CBS, by the way, one of the users of Source Connect. Think of it as sort of a Skype Pro. The audio quality is very high, very, very high quality. It's the best settings. It's indiscernible from the audio recorded directly on your computer. And any studio that has the software can also record you real time. It's fantastic. It's very reliable. The sound quality is stellar. It's better than ISDN in a lot of ways in that it doesn't cost to be on a connection. The sound quality you can achieve is actually higher, and it has other features that ISDN just will never have. So I would definitely check into it if you're looking to be competitive and do national ad spots, commercials, promo, affiliate work, anything where you're playing at a higher level. A lot of the agencies now require it of their talent. You probably should look into it. And you can do that now over at source-elements.com, where you can get a 15-day free trial. And you don't have to have a USB iLock key dongle thing to use it now. It works without an iLock. Go check it out and let us know, or let them know, actually, that we sent you. We'll be right back.
This is John Bailey, the Epic Voice, and you're watching VOBS.TV, Monday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 Newfoundland.
Hi, this is Bill Farmer, and you are watching VoiceOver Body Shop. It's great.
Having dinner tonight? How about having some VO, too?
VoiceOver Body Shop.
Have some voiceover with your dinner tonight on VoiceOver Body Shop, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific.
And welcome back to our fun little show that we've only been doing for, by the way, 100 episodes.
Yay!
This is our 100th episode as VOBS, not including the 194 East-West audio body shops we did starting in 2011. So anyway, it's time to introduce our guest on our 100th episode. So it's a great honor for her indeed. Amanda Rose Smith is a 10-year audio industry veteran with notable projects in the audiobook, gaming, film, and television fields. After earning a master's degree in music technology from NYU, she spent time working as a live sound engineer before turning to studio work. She served as an ADR engineer for hit shows such as Orange is the New Black and The Good Wife, and recorded and edited dialogue on games such as The Telltales, The Walking Dead. She's directed voice performances for animation and also recorded, edited, and directed over 700 audiobooks. And I thought the 40 I did was a lot. She's worked with Bryan Cranston, George Takei, oh my, and even Hillary Rodham Clinton are counted among those who's recorded throughout her career. In addition to continuing her studio work, she currently coaches voiceover actors in the New York City SAG-AFTRA Voiceover Lab. They got one in New York?
That's right. That's the lab that it was started by, the Donald Fontaine Lab. It's the New York flavor.
Right. Well, let's welcome to the show, after all this hullabaloo, Amanda Rose Smith. Welcome to our show.
Yeah.
It's great to have you here.
Great to be here. 100 episodes. Congratulations.
Why, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It seems like over 100.
It seems like 200 ago.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, welcome to our show. Audiobooks are huge. I mean, you've worked on 700 audiobooks, and we know a lot of producers and a lot of people, they're getting into voiceover thinking that audiobooks is the way to start off doing that.
The gateway drug, as you will.
That's kind of like starting running by marathon training.
Exactly.
Why are they so huge? Why is it that people have really gone to audiobooks?
Well, I think probably a lot of that has to do with being able, having iPads and iPhones and all of that. People ask me sometimes about my first audiobook experience as a listener, and I just have this memory of going on a road trip with my mother, and we were going to listen to Great Expectations, and having like 17 CDs, discs set. And you're like, oh, we better put this in the trunk. It's too big for the front seat. And, and that's one book. And so that used to be how that worked. But now that we can, fit hundreds and hundreds of audio hours onto a little rectangle about this big, it certainly makes audiobooks more appealing.
It certainly does. I can remember a long road trip with tapes. My father-in-law's Lincoln, just shove the tape in there. But about this many tapes. So
yeah,
it's been around for a while, but now with the technology we have, it's so much easier for people to listen to them. But it's also easier for them to record. But we talked a little bit about, we mentioned in your bio all the cool stuff you've done. But how did you get into this very specific genre of voiceover work?
Well, in undergrad, I was a music major, as you can kind of see if I all my junk back here. And I started engineering to record my own stuff. And sort of at the same time, my work study in college was working for the Office of Disability Services. And I would take one of those old dictation tapes, the little recorders that are like this big.
Right.
And I would record homework assignments for blind and dyslexic students. So in the beginning of the week, they'd be like, here are your 3 students' assignments. And I would go through and I would read them. So it was kind of this weird confluence of skills where I had done that previously. And then I became more and more educated from a recording technology standpoint. And I actually, right after I finished my master's degree, I answered, of all things, a Craigslist ad that was like, oh, do you know how to record audio? Oh, do you like to read? And I was like, yeah, both of those things are true. And it turned out to be a listing for the American Foundation for the Blind. And they had a studio in New York City near Penn Station called Talking Books. Mm-hmm. So that was my first audiobook gig. And that was directly, actually, there was a little bit of overlap of when I was doing live sound. And, in live sound, you're working like a 20-hour day and you're, carrying gear and getting all dirty and all of that. And then I would have another day of audiobook work and I'd be like, oh, I'm sitting in a chair and I'm reading and someone's paying me for that. This is pretty cool. And it just kind of went from there. They went out of business soon after, but then I started working at a post studio that they wanted to get into audiobooks as well. And I had the experience, so they hired me and I ended up working there for about 5 years and it just kind of went from there.
Yeah. So now you're a freelance producer, and,
yeah.
and so people say, we know Amanda Rose Smith can handle this, and they contract you to do that.
Yeah, I do everything from producing. So sometimes I'll get an author or a company that just wants to say, we want this written thing to be audio here, and then I'll do everything from casting to recording to coordinating, post-production and all that. Or in a lot of cases, I also get hired directly by publishers and actors to do post-production on sometimes home studio recorded material. So that's another big part of what I do.
That's great. And it's what a specialty that is for you. I mean, there's not a lot of people actually doing that. I mean, you've got a lot of recording studio engineers who do all sorts of stuff, but not a lot doing specifically audiobooks. So it's a great place to be.
I'm a nerd. What can I say? I like books.
That's great. Now, you work in the studio and you record people live doing this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who are getting into recording audiobooks, of course, can do it at home now, which we all help them try and set up. But everybody's intimidated by these crazy specs that some of the producers or some of the organizations that you can, get real easy audiobook work from. And they're like, oh, what is this? I mean, they throw them all these different parameters. What's your advice to anyone who's clueless when faced with performing any of that technical stuff?
Well, it really depends. It depends, as you guys said earlier.
Got a lot of that tonight.
What your budget is and sort of what your ultimate goal is. I mean, initially, and of course, I know people are always going to take this with a grain of salt from an engineer, but I would say have a professional do it. If not, do the mastering itself, because mastering is the step where you would be tackling all those sort of specific audio specs. To have somebody create a stack for you. And a stack is a succession of processing steps that you can sort of automate. And that's a sort of cheaper way to get closer to where you want to be in terms of reaching those specs. It's not perfect, but it is an option for getting audio that will be more acceptable, either to send to a publisher or perhaps to post to ACX.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of these things? I mean, people look at them and they're like, compress, do the, what is it that the audio producers want, or what is it that the publishers want that they're sending out? In all the books I've done, it's like compress, expand, compress, expand, compress. It's like, until it's like, there's no dynamics to it at all. Why is it done that way?
Ideally, your listener should never have to reach for the volume knob.
Good.
That's sort of, that's what I tell people is it should sound like you sat down, you read for 10 hours and then you got up. And so sometimes, of course, in the course of performing, you'll have louder parts and quieter parts, and that's the sort of what your voice does naturally. But in order to be able to create a sound where nobody's ever reaching for the volume knob, you have to do things like compress. So, compression takes those peaks, those really loud parts, and kind of nudges them down and gets everything to kind of the same range there. So nobody's reaching for their volume knob, no matter how expressive you're being. And of course, there's performance ways to do that too. Stage whispering, stage yelling. You should never be actually yelling into the mic in a book. You can get the, vocal effect of yelling without actually yelling. But nonetheless, you're still going to have, in order to be able to create that never reach for the volume knob situation, you're going to have to do, a fair amount of processing to get it in that neighborhood.
Right. Well, I've always had the philosophy of, if you don't know what something does, don't use it.
That is a good philosophy. People will often ask me, well, what about this and what about that? And there are different situations. Sometimes if you're working through ACX, you're not technically just an actor, you're a producer. And what that means is that even if you can't do those tech things, you are responsible for making sure they get done. But that doesn't mean you have to do them. You can get somebody else to do them, because frankly, a lot of people are like, that's not for me. I don't really want to deal with that. And but, with the publishers, there's less of that. That's more about just sort of, you don't need to master for them. You just need to get your audio to sound okay. Right. And there's this sort of weird thing that happens where they'll say, send raw audio. And then people send, actual raw audio. Oh, this isn't good enough. Like, but you said just send raw. But what they really mean is unmastered. So it doesn't necessarily have to meet a certain spec, but you might still want to do things like denoise or maybe a little bit of compression or that kind of thing. Right. It's kind of like, how you have to wash dishes before you put them in the dishwasher.
Well, in some cases,
That's a good analogy, actually, I have to say. That's a really good analogy.
I've tried. I was always of the camp of, well, why would I have a dishwasher if I had to do that? And then I, ran it a few times and realized that's not really how that works.
Really? Well, who makes those determinations then? Who makes the determination what should be done to that audio before it gets edited or before it goes to mastering? Like, is that something that, voice talent should be left on their own to figure out? Or how do you make those decisions for them when they don't know how to do it themselves?
What I would probably do if you're looking for recording for publishers and sending in raw audio to them, I would, if you're technically inclined, you can look into doing it yourself, but I would hire an engineer to come in and take a look at your space. And, and if you're not in a place where there are a lot of engineers that can do that can physically come, you could also hire someone remotely, just send them actual raw audio and say, what do you think? And they might have some feedback on, well, it sounds like your space is a little echoey. You're going to need more foam, something like that. Or they might say, this is fine for actually raw, and these are the steps that I would do before sending it to a publisher. So, and I would hire somebody who regularly works with publishers, who knows, what they're looking for. Because what a lot of people don't understand is that the tech stuff is very stylistic. You don't process a book the way you process a commercial spot, or the way you would process animation, or it's all different. You use similar processes, like, you're going to use compression in all of them, but you don't do it quite the same way. So if what you're looking for is to have audio that's okay to send to a publisher, hire somebody who does that work.
Right. Well, it sort of brings up the issue, though, that unless you're doing something for, what's a good publisher's name?
Random House.
Random House. There we go. Yeah. If you're doing something for Random House or or one of the other big ones, McGraw-Hill. I keep thinking of what's your name and Tim McGraw and McGraw-Hill. If you're doing one of those, I mean, you're going to be getting good money out of that. But if some of these things on ACX and the things that, I mean, they want everything recorded since Gutenberg, and they're not paying anything to do it. If someone is, why should they should go to an engineer, obviously, to get it right. Perhaps that engineer could teach them a thing or two about how to do that sort of stuff. But it cuts into the profit margin, which is pretty razor thin for a lot of people.
Well, a lot of people think that, but I'll tell you this.
Dispel the mythology.
I have upwards of 35 narrators that hire me to do their full post. And they can afford to do that. And on the ACX projects, by the way, I should have specified. And the way a lot of them will look at it and will tell you they look at it is that they can't afford not to. Because frankly, I'm going to do the work faster, than somebody who's not used to doing the post work. And also, while I'm doing that, or whoever, you can act. You can keep acting. You can work on your next book. It's, I think a lot of artists, myself included, we have a hard time thinking like business people. And this is another analogy, that I've been using a lot. For a long time, my husband kept trying to get me to be okay with the idea of sending out our laundry. Now, we live in New York City, which means that, we don't have a washer dryer like normal people. So it's a whole big production where you have to go to a laundromat, and it takes hours and hours and hours. And it takes a lot of time, and it's a pain in the butt. But sending out laundry is expensive. And I would always say, no, why am I going to pay somebody to do something that I can do? That makes no sense. And then when I went freelance, I did the math, and I looked at the work that I had and how much I could do in a given amount of time and how much I would be paid and how long it would take me to do that laundry and how much it would cost. And I realized that I was actually saving money by sending it out. Wow. Which is totally counterintuitive. But it's true. If you do the math, you can often find out that that's the case. And it won't be the case right away. It's not like you're just going to open up acx.com and that's going to be true. There's a learning curve, and there's a time it takes before you get to that point. And I have a lot of people come to me where they say, I was going to edit this book myself, and then I realized I didn't have time. Can you do it? And that's sort of, once, those projects start piling up, that's kind of a conversation you can have. And there are different things you can do in the meantime. Like I talked about having somebody make you a stack. That's generally pretty inexpensive because it doesn't take very long. And you can kind of do your first projects with that. And you can sort of get by and be able to hit the specs. And then as you grow, resources grow. And I mean, people do make money on ACX. I know it's not, it seems impossible, but like I said, probably a third of my income, and I live a middle-class life in New York City, is people paying me to do their ACX post work.
Wow. Well, that's good.
There's a demand.
Yeah, clearly there's a demand for it.
Yeah.
Now, George and I teach people how to set up home studios, as we've discussed, and our philosophy is always keep it simple. Everything is about good acoustics, proper mic technique, and proper modulation, and setting your levels properly. For audiobooks, sometimes I get the impression that perhaps maybe it's a little bit different. Of course, I've heard all sorts of crazy audio from people, and they're like, yeah, I got it on ACX. And I'm like, you sound like you're in your bathroom. Perhaps it was a novel in a bathroom.
Well, I mean, here's the thing about ACX, right? It's Wild West.
It certainly is.
You can get onto ACX with any number of things, but that doesn't speak to whether or not it's going to be, profitable. I would say that, that advice is good advice for any kind of voice recording, for sure. I mean, as much as possible, your processing shouldn't have to mitigate things that you can fix in the recording process. I'm not saying that people don't use, iZotope for noise removal, and iZotope's amazing. I think everybody should buy it. But before you use it, you really should do the best job you can in making your, space quiet and the best it can sound. Because it'll sound even better if you can then nudge it with a little bit of noise removal or, decrackle or what have you.
Yeah, the more you have to lean on these tools, the less the tools work well, which is kind of ironic. Like if you really need noise reduction really, really bad, it's probably not going to sound real great after you use noise reduction, right?
Yeah, and I mean, there are ways to make it work better and all that. But yeah, I would say it should be a sort of final polish. It shouldn't be something you need to do in order for what you're recording to be, acceptable.
Right. Now, you're also a director, too. You direct people through audiobooks. Most of the time it's like you're stuffed in this closet and you're all by yourself and you've got to direct. How do you direct somebody through an audiobook? What's really involved with that?
Well, a lot of it has to do, of course it's acting like any other kind of, acting. So there's that sort of typical, like, does this sound believable? Does it sound authentic? And you're dealing with voices too, because when you're in a book, you're the whole cast, right? Like you're not just one character or two characters, you're everybody. And the idea, everybody has slightly different aesthetics for how they approach that. Some actors, I know one very famous Audie award-winning actor whose voices are very, very, very minimal. But through the acting, the intention is communicated and it still works really well. And then I know another person in that same boat, multiple Audies, whose characters are very distinct and kind of, in some cases, maybe even a little over the top, but it works because it's authentic for the context that it's in. I would say for most people, if they're sort of not sure where they fall, I tell people to think of the characterization as kind of seltzer, flavored seltzer to soda. Like, a character in an audiobook is like orange flavored seltzer, not orange soda. Like you don't want to go, it's not animation. So you don't want to go really over the top, but you do want to have it be distinct, so accents, things like that. And when you're directing, some of it is just making sure that those choices are coming across as a listener, because I'm basically your first listener, so I can give feedback where that person sounds a lot like that person. I was confused, who's talking here? Why do you think they're saying that? That kind of thing. It depends on how much time, is available, because sometimes it's really fun, and when I'm practicing with people, especially in the SAG lab, we can really dig into characters, into tension and things like that. But a lot of the time when you get these books, you only have so much time to get them done. So then it's usually, depending on who it is, it's a little bit less deep diving into the acting and a little bit more just, are the voices consistent? Did you say the right, the thing that's on the page? That kind of basic stuff. Because it's frankly, these days, you're almost always an engineer and a director. And sometimes, like, I have a couple of books that I'm doing at Random House next month where I'm just the engineer and then there's a director. And that's like very fancy these days. It doesn't happen that often. Mostly just on books that are a little bit bigger budget. But
well, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Amanda Rose Smith, who is an audiobook engineer and a number of other things. She directs, she produces, she composes music, which we can also talk about a little bit. And if you've got a question for her, throw it in the chat room right now, and Jack Daniel will relay that question to us, and I'm sure that Amanda will be thrilled to answer those. But right now we're going to take a break because I've got to start my colonoscopy prep. And
which has nothing to do with audiobooks.
None, unless you're talking about that in a book. I'm sure it goes on. Anyway, Amanda, hang out. We'll be right back, and all of you should stay here too, and we'll be right back on VoiceOver Body Shop with Amanda Rose Smith. And your questions.
Style. Power.
You're watching the home of the NFL.
The all-new iPhone.
Reserve your Disney World season pass now.
Through all the runny noses, 3 in the morning coughs.
An all-new American Crime Story, tonight on FX. This week only, it's Pasta Fest at Olive Garden.
Heart rate, prime. Blood pressure, perfect.
I grew up with the classics, and now with StubHub, I can get authentic tickets to the best shows.
The all-new Chevy Cruze from $16,995.
Be inspired, then get the beauty that's uniquely yours at Sephora.
This week at Home Depot, it's our Garden Fest sale with up to 30% off all garden tools, sod, and seeds.
Hi, it's J. Michael Collins, and these are just a few examples of the first-class demos my team and I are producing. If you'd like to have something similar, visit jmcvoiceover.com and click on the Demo Production tab to find out more.
And we're back here on VoiceOver Body Shop. You know, getting the best equipment is really, really important for your home voiceover studio. And the best place to get it is voiceoveressentials.com because he's got such great stuff. Harlan Hogan, the owner at VoiceOver Essentials, like the VO multicolor LED voiceover recording sign is at a special holiday price right now. It also comes with this credit card size remote control, and it's included. And the sign is the perfect gift for your voiceover worker, even if it's yourself. But Harlan also wanted me to tell you about his book, autographed copies of The Voice Actor's Guide to Recording at Home and on the Road, which features up-to-date, twice the size, 3 times the laughs. If you've read the original, you know, Harlan's a funny guy. Totally revised and expanded, probably based on all the information we've sent to him about how to update your studio. Right. Save money producing your own demos in-house. Save time by auditioning at home and emailing your submissions. Expand your career by working with clients from all over the world. Add value to your services by delivering professional quality recorded voice tracks and increase your earning potential. Free standard shipping in the U.S., just $29.99. So go over to voiceoveressentials.com. You want to learn about how to get the best out of your recording studio at your home voiceover studio. Go there. The best way to get there is just go down to the bottom of our page here, and there's a picture of Harlan talking into his Port-A-Booth Pro, and you click on that. It'll take you right there, and let him know that you found out about VoiceOver Essentials from George and I here at VoiceOver Body Shop. So 100 episodes, along with the other 194 that he sponsored before. Thank you, Harlan Hogan. You're amazing, as is VoiceOver Essentials. Go there, buy his stuff.
Are we at -4 dB? We're at -4 dB on VOBS.
And we're back. I can't wait to start this slurry that the doctor's like, do this, do that. But it's important, folks. You get over 50, get a colonoscopy. It might save your life. All right. We have lots of questions from our amazing audience all over the fruited plain, starting with J. Rodney Turner.
Actually, I had a question before.
Oh, you did?
I want to jump in line.
Go for it.
I'm jumping
in
line.
You're in charge.
I have the prerogative to do that. What DAW, if it matters at all, what DAW recording software should your narrator use that is working with you? Does it matter at all what they use?
Well, yes, in the sense that you should be punching and rolling. And I know maybe like Dan, some of you out there are still clicking and you think that you catch them all, but you don't. I'm here to tell you that. I have a few people that I know record that way, and then they go and they take everything out, but they always leave at least one. And that's important to know because, you know, with me, it's okay. But if you're working for a publisher and they've requested punch and roll audio and you don't give it to them, that's not a great way to start the relationship.
In other words, if they catch you, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and they will, because I've never edited a book that was recorded that way where I haven't caught at least one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, 1 out of 500 ain't bad though. Yeah, which is why I don't do audiobooks anymore. I got other things to do.
So for punch and roll, what do you like for the narrator to start with?
Well, you know, it's great that you guys had just mentioned Ocean Audio. I never know how to say it.
Just spell it right.
Yeah, OCN. I've started recommending that, particularly to people who are sort of tech afraid, because it does have punch and roll. and it's very simple, very bare bones. There's not a lot to learn, which can be comforting for a lot of people. Look, I record with Pro Tools because it's what I learned 15 years ago. But I have 7 other DAWs on my computer, and I use them all for different things. Sometimes when I'm doing batch processing, like when I'm making audio raw, I might use Twisted Wave. And that's not to record the audiobook, but just to do that kind of processing. Reaper's great. It has punch and roll, and it's session-based like Pro Tools. It's very cheap. It's very customizable. And look, Audible uses it. They don't even use Pro Tools. Audible uses Reaper, as well as a lot of studios in New York City. But it can be a little intimidating to people who are not technical. Mm-hmm. So, what I like to do is I like to learn as many of them as I can, and then I generally tailor my suggestion to whoever it is that I'm talking to.
Gotcha.
So if it's somebody who I know is good on the computer and likes a challenge and wants to be able to do the full process themselves, I probably say Reaper. Mm-hmm. If it's somebody who's like, I know I have to provide punched material, but this recording stuff is, I'm doing it because I have to, but I don't really want to, then I'll probably tell them to use Osen Audio because I think it'll be the easiest for them to learn.
How's it been for you? How's Osen Audio been in terms of reliability? Have people lost any long recordings because of software problems, crashes? Has just from since you've been recommending it, how's it been working out for your?
Well, I've only recently started recommending it because it only recently has had punch and roll.
Yeah.
But so far, it doesn't seem to be an issue because it does record destructively, which means that it's not, Pro Tools and Reaper and Studio One and all those programs, what they do, right, is they have a session file like your PTX or whatever, or the RPP for Reaper. And what that file does is it tells all these small, little audio files how to line up, right, like where to go. But, something like Twisted Wave or Osen Audio, it's always modifying the audio file directly. And I think what George is referring to is sometimes when you get audio files, single audio files that are very, very long, they can get a little bit unstable. So what I would do in the case of Osen Audio, if it were me, is I would probably start a new file for every chapter to try to make sure that doesn't happen. And the way it's set up too, on the side, you can have different files kind of open in a list. So you can still kind of have them all in front of you to look at. But that's how I would probably get around that kind of problem. Because, a single audio file that's like 10 hours long is probably not going to be.
Definitely not what that.
Not going to help.
Yeah, I don't think you want your audio file to be much more than an hour, and chop it down smaller if necessary for whatever makes you feel comfortable. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. All right. Well, since you jumped in line, I get to ask J. Rodney Turner's question.
Go for it.
All right. What advice do you have for a narrator who has completed all of their work thus far through ACX, has been successful doing all of their own technical work, but is interested in beginning to outsource everything but the narration, of course? Where does someone begin to look to reach out besides the typical Facebook groups and social networking sites?
Well, honestly, I would say your friends or your colleagues anyway, people who outsource and you like their work and they're doing well, ask them who they use. I still think word of mouth is the best way. I mean, it's how I get all my work. Is I get emails from people who say, oh, this other person you work with said I should work with you. And I think that it's generally, if you have people who are putting out a good product and who you trust, that's sort of the best endorsement, right there. Mm-hmm. So ask your colleagues. It doesn't have to be through Facebook, but, I think that that's the best way. I mean, I know that I don't remember if it's Audiobook Crowd or the ACX Narrators and Producers group on Facebook. One of them does have a Google Doc that just lists a bunch of people who do post. But, how can you really know? The only way to really know if somebody's going to do the work the way you want them to is, to have them do it. But the second best is to know that they're doing it for somebody whose opinion you value. So
referrals.
Yeah.
Good way to go. Paul Stefano asks, and I think I know the answer to the first question. What if I don't want to do punch and roll as a narrator? That's the first one.
So anybody who's seen me online knows that I'm a punch and roll evangelist. There are people who claim that they can't do it. And look, I did an author read with an Iraq War vet who did 2 tours and had a traumatic brain injury and had to have his service dog with him in the booth while we recorded. And I taught him to punch and roll in 20 minutes. And that book was nominated for an Audie. So if he can do it, you can do it. And I have to tell you, I've never met a person who actually went through the process of switching, like who, gave it a good shot, did it for a while, got used to it, who wanted to go back after. I've never met anyone who wanted to do that. I think that once you get in the groove, it's very musical, and sometimes the reason why it's not working for you can be anything. It can be a simple thing like your pre-roll is off. Like it's not in an amount of time that's good for you. Some people like longer pre-roll, like 4 or 5 seconds. Some people only want 2 seconds. I've worked with people who feel adamantly both ways, and that can drastically change your workflow and how much in the groove you get.
Yeah.
But I think it forces you to make decisions. Like people sometimes will do take after take after take if they know that they can just do it. But sometimes when you get into that kind of rhythm, you're like, no, that was good. I'm moving on. And, with books, you have to do that because books can be 8 or 9 hours long. And also you don't get paid, based on how long they are, how long they take to do. You get paid based on how long they are. So it's good to get into this headspace of feeling confident in your decisions and doing it once, and moving on.
That's the per finished hour you see people talking about, or PFH for short.
PFH, yeah.
When you see PFH rates, those are rates based on the actual listening hours. Like how long is the book going to be listened?
Yeah.
How long does it take to listen to the book?
And to piggyback onto that, there are a couple other just practical reasons. One, any publisher that wants you to home record is going to require it. And like I said, yes, you can record with a clicker, do those things, but you're gonna miss stuff. Everybody misses stuff. Everybody.
Everybody?
Everybody. And also, if you open record, from what I've noticed in books generally, not everybody, there are a few exceptions, like Simon Vance he's a notable one where his edits go together very, very well. But most people, if you're open recording and you're 2 or 3 takes down the line, and then that edit has to be made to put them back together, it sounds weird because the performance is different. And, when you're punching and rolling, you hear literally the last good take you had and you go into the next thing. And it makes it much easier to sort of keep that groove going. But if it's been like a minute and a half and now you're going back, a good editor can do a lot, but it's going to be better if you don't have that kind of disconnect.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And then one more thing. Frankly, just from a payment standpoint, if you're on ACX, I gotta tell you, my open record rates are case by case basis, but they're never less than 3 times as much as my punch record edit rate.
So in other words, you're going to charge someone who does open record, which is the clicker or whatever, more per finished hour than someone who does punch and roll, just because it's going to be more work.
Significantly more.
Yeah.
And because it depends on the person too, because some people, they do a lot. So then you have to, you generally, if people want that, I tell them I need them to send me about a half an hour of raw material, and I need to see how often they stop. Now, that doesn't mean, look, like I said, I do have clients that use the clicker method and who get the normal punch rate, but that means that they have to go back and edit out all those takes themselves. And that's extra work for you. You're not getting the best for your money because, you're editing before you even send to me, and then I'm charging my full rate. And then you're going to have to do punches because there are going to be things that you either cut out by accident when you made the edit, or, it's just, in my opinion, it's not the most efficient, from a money standpoint, from a time standpoint, or from a performance standpoint, way to work.
All righty. Question from Richard Hercher. He says, I'm working on my first ACX production. My noise floor is about -66, and my RMS is about -24. Will ACX accept my audio if I amplified their sound to -21 to -18 RMS while limiting my peaks too? Or should I delete and re-record while shouting into my mic more?
Okay, so first of all, that's a perfectly good noise floor. That's great. A lot of people, they have this misconception with the specs that you're supposed to be hitting that when you record. You are not. It is not even possible. You will not hit the specs without processing something that you've recorded. It sounds like the levels that you have are very good. So probably what I would do for that is maybe a little bit of compression, a little bit of experience. I mean, I'd have to hear it to really know exactly what you should do. But your audio is definitely in good shape at least from a noise floor standpoint, if those are the levels that you're hitting.
Cool.
So
it's great because you're answering a lot of other people's questions along the way. Because we're skipping questions here because you're answering them preemptively. Yeah. So,
like what?
Well, about levels, like setting levels for ACX. What's general good advice, which you just answered.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, I would say a sort of good recording advice in general is I tell people, live in the high green, peak in the yellow. Most meters, they have like red for when, oh no, you're peaking, and then they have yellow for like, it's pretty high, but you're okay right now. And then you have the green. And I tell people, if you're looking at the meter, when you're recording, you should mostly be in a kind of high green. And then when you do something a little louder, it can go into the yellow. But you don't want to be like way down in the low green. Some people do that because they're afraid of peaking. And you don't want to be trying to get it all the way up to the top all the time either, because then you're going to get distortion. So I guess levels wise, when you're recording, that's probably a good.
Cool.
Absolutely.
I'm going to insert this one in because it just ties into everything we were just talking about. And Maxine says, since there may be people watching the show, and I know there are people in the chat room who are asking this, or maybe are listening to the podcast, we kind of blazed over what the heck punch and roll is.
I mean, we sort of showed it.
We
in
did, but
one segment,
we kind of blazed over it. So for people that can't see it because they're listening on the podcast, would you describe basically just quickly what punch and roll actually is for the listeners that can't see the screen?
So basically what it is you're recording along and then you make a mistake. And, a lot of you who are already doing other kinds of voiceover work, because punch and roll is really mainly used in books because of how long they are. Editing, a 60-second spot is never really that big of a deal. So, you don't really need to do it. But in the case of something long, you're going along, you mess up. And rather than pausing and starting from the start, of the previous sentence, like you would do for a commercial spot or something like that, you place the cursor at the end of the last good take you had. It'll play back a few seconds of that, and then it will start recording automatically. So that means you hear your last couple sentences and then you go. And what that means is that there's no having to go back and edit out missteps or bad takes or anything like that. In theory, what you have is just a long recording without any extra takes or anything in it. It doesn't mean it doesn't need to be edited. Sometimes people think that that's what that means. If you're sending to a publisher, usually they'll do the editing themselves. There still can be some pacing issues, if you come in a little early or a little late. And there's still going to be, clicks and pops and misreads and the kind of stuff that you always get. But you won't have all that time-consuming editing of like half sentences or extra takes or things like that can get left in an open record.
All right.
So, Joy's last question about that, still but still on the whole purpose, the topic of punch and roll is, do you, the editor, go back and edit all those punch-in points, or is the voice actor going to be does the voice actor need to edit punch-in points, or
No, you don't need to edit punch-in points. You'll find when you've been doing it for a little while, a lot of them, the majority of them, don't need a lot of editing. Usually, after a little while, you'll naturally come in at a place that makes sense. You might still have things like cut breaths or double breaths. That'll happen sometimes. And that's when an editor like me will go and massage out and kind of fix. But it won't be every punch point. It'll be a minority of them. And I tell people when I edit, a good way of explaining my process with that is that I support the performance, but I don't change it. So, for instance, if you have a certain sort of slowish pace that you read at, I'm not going to go in and like cut all the things, as you're, to make you read faster. But what I will do is if you are reading at a certain pace and then the next sentence seems to come in like too quickly or weirdly abruptly, or if there's a weird long pause that doesn't seem to make sense in the context of what's happening, I'll change that to make it sound like the rest of what you're doing. And by the way, this is another thing just sort of that it's clicked into my mind. In books, you don't edit out breaths. That's something that a lot of people don't realize because in most other VO genres, you do. In commercials, you generally edit out breaths and animation. And in a lot of e-learning stuff, you edit out breaths. In books, you don't. If there's a particularly like a wet or loud breath, you might take it out. But generally, all the breaths.
Wet breaths are no good.
Yeah, we don't want those wet breaths.
No.
Yeah. Well, Amanda, it's been great having you on this show. We've been looking forward to this because everybody asks these questions about audiobooks, and it was good to go to an expert who really knows their stuff about that kind of stuff.
Indeed.
So thanks for being with us. And if people want to get a hold of you and perhaps have you edit their stuff, how would they do that?
Amanda Rose Smith, all one word, @gmail.com. And I'm on Facebook all the time. So you can find me on there too.
All righty. Well, thanks for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you again soon. All righty. Well, get to wrap our 100th episode up into a nice tight little ball, as we always say. And we'll do that. And we have one last tech question that we'll get to right after this.
Your dynamic voiceover career requires extra resources to keep moving ahead. Now there's one place where you can explore everything the voiceover industry has to offer. That place level. Stay in touch with market trends, coaching, products, and services while avoiding scams and other pitfalls. VoiceOver Extra has hundreds of articles, free resources, and training that will save you time and help you succeed. Learn from the most respected talents, coaches, and industry insiders when you join the online sessions bringing you the most current information on topics like audiobooks, auditioning, casting, home studio setup and equipment, marketing, performance techniques, and much more. It's time to hit your one-stop daily resource for voiceover success. Sign up for a free subscription to newsletters and reports and get 14 bonus reports on how to ace the voiceover audition. It's all here at voiceoverextra.com. That's voiceoverextra.com.
Hey, working pros, are you ready for a pro workout that really makes you bring it? Do you want to connect with some of the highest caliber decision makers in all the voiceover genres? Do you always wonder what happens after you send in that killer audition? Well, let's talk about the VO Dojo Pro Fight Club. This pull no punches workout brings top-notch working pros from all over together for a friendly face-off in front of top decision makers in commercials, animation, narration, promo, and video games. It's designed to turn the audition process transparent and open up every step of the process from being heard to being hired. It's time to get out of your closet and get connected with each other and with people who can hire us. The VO Dojo offers 2 Pro Fight Clubs a month, one live in LA and one virtual from wherever you are. Coming up next, Fight Club is virtual with superstar New York casting director Lisa Fischoff from Broadcasters, and then join animation producer Rita Street founder of Women in Animation, who will be exploring Adult Swim-style scripts, who also specializes in the Spanish-speaking market. Players must have a demo, be repped, and be booking. Everyone is welcome to audit Virtual Fight Club. So visit the website to learn more and grab your spot. www.thevodojo.com.
Before time began, there was VOBS.tv. Watch or else.
Learn the latest in voiceover technology, business, and good old-fashioned acting.
I really like your bracelet. It's awesome.
Hey, Paul, where did you get that watch?
That's really cool.
And a hamburger with no cheese, please.
Every Monday, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, only on voiceoverbodyshop.com.
Okay, we're back to clean things up here. Just pour a little water on it and, and a little bit of champagne. By the way, our 100th episode.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Got to turn on all the mics for everybody in the room. Salute.
Salute.
That's him.
Cheers.
I'm amazed. How did 100 episodes go by that quick?
Thanks for the champagne, baby.
Yeah, good
You're
champagne.
welcome, honey.
All righty. We need to. Yeah, one of the ways we get this show done is because we have donors. And who are our donors of the week?
Well, we just got a nice one that came in. I mean, they're all nice,
They're
but this one's a little
wonderful.
bigger than the others
Yeah.
that we usually see from Shane Fager. And that's actually a brand new name to me. So very cool.
Welcome
Thank
to the
you.
show, Shane.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks. Eric Aragoni, one of our regular sponsors, or not sponsors, but donors to the show. Almost a sponsor. He donates every time. Brian Roush, thank you very much, Brian, old friend. Grace.
Graham Spicer.
Graham Spicer. Thank you, Graham. Really appreciate it. He's a sustaining member. And Jorge Infante. Did I say that name last week?
Yeah, I believe you did.
So great, I got to say it twice. It's so weird how Google's inbox reorders what's in the box sometimes. It's very confusing. We also have Joe Lesh. Hey, thanks, Joe. I don't think I read his name recently. And Tracy H. Reynolds. So appreciate all those donations. It's so helpful to us.
Outstanding. Yeah, it makes the show go perfectly like it did tonight. Except for, well, no.
Speaking of making the show go perfectly.
Yes.
Our wonderful technical director, floor producer, Andrew Bushwitz, is being plucked from us.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Yes.
As it always goes with great talent, they never stick around forever.
Right.
So Andrew is going to be leaving the show. That's another reason why we have champagne tonight.
Yeah.
For a toast to Andrew. Andrew is,
Finally, he's gone.
this man has done a wonderful job for us over the years. There he is. There's the shot. Andrew's done a fantastic job. And so in losing Andrew at the end of the month, we're actually going to be looking for new folks to fill that role.
Yeah.
And so if you yourself are in the area of Sherman Oaks, not too far away, you should be pretty
Got to be
close.
in the valley. Or
Yeah, in the valley
on the
or
side
not
of the
far.
hill anyway.
And you think it'd be fun to be here almost every Monday night and do what we do and learn the way we do things in the studio. Maybe someday you want to do this yourself, learn on the job. This could be something for you.
It's the future of media. Got to learn how to do that.
It is. So if you're interested, just please do send us an email to the guys at VOBS.tv. Put in the subject line, want to help out or be a producer or something like that. And we'd love to talk to you at some point.
Excellent.
Soon.
Absolutely. Also, our opening VO provided by the one and only announcer, Doug Turkel. And
That's
you
right.
can too. And we promise to have one by 2018. A new
That's a
intro
goal.
for the show.
That's a goal. I talked to the drone guy today, by the way. He was very excited.
Okay, well, let's get those drone shots in there. Let's see. Show logs. You know where the show logs are. They're up
Right
there.
on the top of
Jack,
the
for
page.
doing that. Let's see. Our podcast, though, very popular, which you can get on
Stitcher, iTunes, any podcatching app should be able to find VOBS.tv. And if you are listening on the podcast, maybe you're one of the listeners, maybe that donation came from a listener, someone that's not normally here live. That's
Right.
why we never heard of them.
Cool.
So if you're one of those folks, maybe you can watch us live on a Monday night at 6 o'clock on VOBS.tv if you want that more interactive, lively chat room experience.
see what we actually look like.
Yeah, and have some snacks and pet the dogs.
Right, exactly. Let's see here. Take the survey too, which is we need to check on the survey and see what you guys want.
Spend some time going over that survey at the end of this year and see what we can do to tighten up the show for next year for 2018.
Right. And if you want to be in the studio and see how we do this live, and you're in the greater Los Angeles area for some reason, like you live here, or you're just visiting, like some people have done, hey, I'm going to be in town. Can they come see the show?
A lot of people visit LA.
That's true. Just write to us again at theguys@VOBS.tv and say, hey, I'm going to be in town for this particular time. Can I come in and we'll vet you and make sure that, see what's going on.
Didn't work with me, Dan.
Yeah.
Didn't work with me.
And somehow Jack Daniel continues to get in here. We're not exactly sure how.
This just in, next week, November 20th, we're going to have J.V. Martin.
J.V. Martin.
He's a fantastic talent. I know J.V. I've worked with him in his studio.
The
He's
voice
a cool guy.
on Shark Week.
That's right. And he's going to be, I think he's going to be here in person. He does live in the L.A. area. And so that's going to be great to have him in the studio.
Super.
It says actually right there. In studio.
All right.
So there you go.
We get to have a party next week. Let's see here. What else? Well, that's we need to, of course, thank Marcy for letting us be out here in the garage.
Thanks, Mars.
Our producer, Catherine Curden, for getting us great guests like Amanda Rose Smith.
Jack Daniel for doing our chat room mod and champagne bottle uncorking this evening.
In the middle of the show.
Right in the middle of the show. Didn't disrupt the thing.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
And our amazing floor producer, Andrew Bushwitz, Jack DeGolia for the show notes, and Lee Penny for simply being Lee Penny. Need to thank our sponsors, too, like Harlan Hogan's Voiceover Essentials.
And also VO Extra, that's VoiceOver Extra.
Source Elements.
VO to Go and Rehearsal App.
The VO Dojo.
VoiceActorWebsites.com.
And Michael J. Collins for providing this amazing streaming stuff that we do. It's not TV, it's something completely different. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Guys, we appreciate you coming every week and supporting our show and asking us questions. And it's hard work. Voice acting is not easy work. It's work. That's why they call it work. But we're here to help you every step of the way with the technology and bringing you the people that can help you a little bit more with your business. So tune in every Monday night, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern Time, and 8:30 in Newfoundland. All righty. That's going to do it for us this week. I'm Dan Leonard.
And I'm George Whittam.
And this is VoiceOver
Body Shop.
Or VOBS. Have a great one.
Cheers.
Learn the latest in voiceover technology.
Business.
And good old-fashioned acting.
Hey, Paul, I really like your suit. Where did you get it? It looks good on you.
This is VOBS.